Sung wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the repaired ventilation unit. The air flowing through it was clean and steady now. Behind him, dozens of workers and families who lived in the lower decks of Nexus 7 space station breathed easier. 3 weeks they had waited for the station authorities to fix this problem. 3 weeks of people getting sick from bad air. 3 weeks of official reports and work orders that went nowhere. So Sung had fixed it himself. He was packing his tools when the security team arrived. 6 tall figures made of what looked like living crystal stepped into the corridor. Their bodies reflected the station lights in rainbow patterns. These were the species that ran security on Nexus 7. Their leader, Chief Security Officer, pointed one sharp crystalline finger at Sung. "You are under arrest," announced. His voice sounded like wind chimes, but there was no music in his tone. Sung blinked. For what? Unauthorized repairs to critical station infrastructure, violation of maintenance protocols, operating without proper certification. Listed each charge as if reading from a manual. "You will come with us." "Are you serious?" Sung looked around at the families nearby. A mother held her young daughter close. An elderly man sat breathing the fresh air with relief on his face. "These people were suffocating. Your maintenance team said it would take another week to schedule the repair." "That is not your concern," said. "Proper channels exist for a reason." "People were dying in your proper channels," Sung shot back. The security team surrounded him. 2 of them grabbed his arms with their hard, cold hands. Sung did not resist. He knew fighting would only make things worse, but he also knew he had done the right thing. They walked him through the station corridors. Other humans and aliens stopped to watch. Some looked confused, others looked angry. A few of the lower deck workers shouted their support to Sung, thanking him for what he had done. They ignored all of it. At the security office, a human woman rushed forward. Jin Park was a diplomatic officer assigned to Nexus 7. She had worked with Sung before on various issues affecting human workers. Her face showed both worry and frustration. "What are the charges?" she demanded. Repeated them. Jin's eyes went wide. "This is absurd," she said. "He saved lives. Your own reports show that ventilation system was critical. If it had failed completely, over 200 beings would have been in danger." "Then those beings should have filed the proper emergency requests," replied. "All actions on this station must follow protocol. Without order, there is chaos. The human violated 3 separate codes. He will face tribunal." "When?" Jin asked. "In 30 rotations, as per standard procedure." 30 days, Jin looked shocked. "Where will he be held until then?" "Maximum security detention." His crystalline face showed no emotion. "It is the only facility with current availability." Jin started to argue, but Sung touched her arm. "It's okay," he said quietly. "Just do what you can through proper channels." He emphasized the last 2 words with clear sarcasm. They processed him quickly. They took his tools, his communicator, even his jacket. They left him with only his basic clothes and boots. Then they led him deeper into the station, to a section Sung had never seen before. The detention block was cold. Not just cool, but actually cold. Sung could see his breath. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as themselves. They glowed with a faint blue light. Along both sides of a long corridor were cells. Each cell had an energy field instead of a door, shimmering and humming with power. Sung could see other prisoners in some of the cells. There was a huge creature covered in thick fur and muscle. Another looked like it was made of liquid metal. A third was small and had too many eyes. All of them looked miserable. They stopped at an empty cell, gestured, and the energy field disappeared for a moment. The guards shoved Sung inside. The field reappeared immediately, crackling with energy. "You will remain here until tribunal," said. He studied Sung for a moment. "Your species is too fragile to survive proper confinement. Perhaps you will learn compliance. If you survive, You will understand the importance of rules. Sung met the alien's crystalline eyes. You don't know much about humans, do you? Made a sound like breaking glass. It might have been laughter. I know enough. You are soft, weak. You require specific temperatures, specific air mixtures, specific everything. This facility was built for species far more durable than yours. Good luck, human. They walked away. Their footsteps echoed in the corridor, then faded to silence. Sung looked around his cell. It was small, maybe 3 meters by 3 meters. The crystalline walls pressed in from all sides. There was a hard bench, nothing else. No blanket, no sink, no toilet that he could see. The air was thin and cold. He could survive it, but it would not be comfortable. From the next cell, a deep voice rumbled. Fresh meat. You won't last long, little one. Sung walked to the energy field barrier and looked over. The huge furred creature from before was watching him. It had 4 arms and tusks like a boar. I'm Sung, he said. I am of, the creature replied. I have been here for 9 moon cycles. The cold does not bother me, but the boredom is killing me slowly. What did you do to earn maximum security? Fixed a ventilation system. Stared at him, that is all. Without proper authorization, Sung added. They made a sound that might have been a laugh or a growl. Thee and their rules. I broke someone's arm in a bar fight. He deserved it, but still, 9 months in this frozen hole. He looked Sung up and down. You are small, soft. How long do you think you will last? Sung smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a decision. As long as I need to. He turned away from and began to examine his cell more carefully. He ran his hands along the walls. He tested the energy field barrier with one finger, feeling it push back against him. He studied the ceiling and the floor. He looked at every corner, every surface, every tiny detail. What are you doing? Asked. Looking, Sung said simply. Looking for what? A way out. This time definitely laughed. It echoed through the detention block. Other prisoners stirred in their cells. There is no way out, human. This place has held criminals from a dozen species, some far smarter than you, some far stronger. All have tried, all have failed. They built this place to be escape-proof. Sung sat down on the hard bench. He pulled off his boots and inspected them carefully. There was a small metal fastener on the heel of one boot. It was meant to hold a broken sole in place. He worked it loose with his fingernails. Give up, said, his voice almost gentle. Save your strength, accept your fate. Sung held the small piece of metal up to the light. It was not much, just a tiny curved piece of alloy, but it was something. I'm not everyone, he said quietly. The detention block settled into silence. The cold pressed in. The thin air made every breath deliberate. Around him, prisoners slept or stared at nothing, broken by this place. But Sung was not broken. He was thinking, planning, calculating. They thought their rules could hold him. They thought their prison was escape-proof. They thought humans were too soft, too weak, too fragile to be dangerous. They were about to learn otherwise. The first 6 hours were the hardest. Sung's body wanted to shiver in the cold, but he would not let it. Shivering wasted energy. Instead, he moved. Slow, deliberate movements, push-ups, squats, careful stretches. He kept his blood flowing and his body warm through pure discipline. Between exercises, he studied everything. The crystalline walls were smooth but not perfectly smooth. There were tiny seams where panels connected. The energy field door hummed at a specific frequency. He counted the seconds between guard patrols, 47 minutes, like clockwork. When the guards passed, Sung was always sitting calmly on his bench. He learned quickly that they liked order. They liked seeing prisoners sitting still, defeated, quiet. So he gave them that image. But the moment they were gone, he was back at work. The small metal fastener became his most precious tool. It was thin enough to slide into the tiny seams in the wall. Patient and careful, he worked it into one seam near the floor. The crystalline material was hard but not impossible to work with. He just needed time and persistence. "Watch from the next cell. You are still trying," the said. It was not a question. "Always," Sung replied. "Why, you will fail. Everyone fails." Sung paused in his work. He looked over at the massive alien. "Because sitting still and accepting it is not who I am. Maybe I will fail, but at least I tried." Was quiet for a long moment. "I tried," he said finally. "For the first 3 moon cycles I tried everything. I am strong. I can bend metal with my bare hands, but these walls do not bend. That energy field burns when I touch it too long. Eventually I stopped trying." "I'm not strong like you," Sung said. He went back to his work with the fastener. "But humans have a different strength. We are stubborn. We don't know when to quit. Some people call it foolish. I call it useful." Hours became days. Sung established a routine. When the guards came, he sat still. When they left, he worked. He also exercised relentlessly. The cold wanted to make him weak, so he made himself strong. The thin air wanted to make him tired, so he pushed through the exhaustion. The other prisoners began to notice. The one made of liquid metal called out to him, "Human, why do you exercise so much? You should save your strength." "This is saving my strength," Sung replied, finishing a sedative. His breath came in clouds of vapor. "My body wants to give up. I'm teaching it not to." On the 3rd day, he finally managed to pry loose a small panel in the wall. Behind it were conduits carrying power and data. They had hidden them well, but not perfectly. Sung studied the wiring carefully. He did not touch anything yet. He just looked and learned. Meanwhile, outside the detention block, Jin Park was fighting her own battle. She sat in a small office across from an administrator. Papers and data pads covered the desk between them. "The tribunal is scheduled," the administrator said. 30 rotations from arrest. This is standard procedure." "Standard procedure for what?" Jin demanded. "He saved lives. Your own engineers confirmed the ventilation system was critical. If he had not fixed it, people would have died." "That does not change the fact that he violated protocol." Jin wanted to scream. Instead, she forced herself to stay calm. "Then change the protocol. Create an emergency exception, something." That would take time. Many committees would need to review such a change. It could take years. Sung does not have years. He is in a cell designed for species that thrive in cold. Humans are not built for that environment. The administrator tilted his crystalline head. "He has survived 3 days so far. Perhaps humans are more durable than I assumed." Jin left the office before she said something that would make things worse. She walked quickly through the station corridors, her mind racing. She needed help. She needed someone who understood engineering, who understood how Sung thought. She found Woo Jin in one of the station's maintenance bays. He was a human engineer who had worked on Nexus 7 for 5 years. He and Sung were friends, though Woo Jin would say Sung was impossible to actually be friends with because the man never stopped working. "Jin," Woo Jin said when he saw her, "I heard about Sung. Is it true? Maximum security for fixing a ventilation system." "It's true," she confirmed. "I am trying to get the tribunal moved up, but they will not budge. They care more about their rules than about justice." Woo Jin set down the tool he was holding. "How is he doing?" "I do not know. They will not let me see him. But that detention facility is designed for cold-adapted species. The temperature alone could kill him if he stays there too long." "It won't kill him," Woo Jin said with certainty. Jin looked at him. "How can you be sure?" "Because I know Sung. That man once did a spacewalk for 6 hours with a torn suit because he was too stubborn to come back inside until the repair was done. The cold will make him miserable, but it will not break him." Woo Jin paused. "And honestly, if they think a locked door will hold him, they are in for a surprise." "What do you mean?" Woo Jin smiled. "Sung is not just a mechanic, he is a solver. You give him a problem and he will work on it until it is solved. Being locked in a cell, that is just another problem. Back in the detention block, Sung was proving Wu Jin right. By day 5, he had mapped every power conduit behind the wall panel. He understood how the energy field doors worked now. They were connected to a central power grid that ran through the entire detention level. Each door had a backup system, but even backups had weaknesses. The key was not to break the door. That would be impossible. The energy field was too strong, and he had no tools that could disrupt it. But he did not need to break the door. He just needed to make the entire system shut down for a few seconds. He studied the conduits carefully. There were 3 main power lines, 1 primary, 2 backups, but they all connected to the same junction point about 2 meters behind his wall. If he could create a feedback loop, if he could overload that junction, the whole grid would trip its safety protocols. Everything would shut down while the system reset itself. The problem was creating that feedback loop. He would need a conductor, something that could bridge the gap between 2 specific conduits at exactly the right moment. The metal fastener was not big enough. He needed something else. He looked down at his hands, at his body. Humans were not great conductors of electricity, but they could conduct it. And if he did it right, if he timed it perfectly, he could survive the shock. "You are planning something," said. They had been watching Sung with increasing interest. "I can see it in the way you move. What are you going to do?" Sung did not answer right away. He was doing calculations in his head. Voltage, amperage, resistance, how long he would need to maintain contact, how much his body could take before he passed out or worse. "I am going to open a door," he said finally. "Impossible." "Probably," Sung agreed, "but I am going to try anyway." Made a rumbling sound. If you somehow succeed, if you actually manage to open that energy field, what then? There are guards, there are weapons, there is the entire security force. Sung smiled, one problem at a time. That night, after the guards made their patrol, Sung began his final preparations. He carefully connected the metal fastener to one conduit. He positioned himself so he could reach the other conduit with his hand. He tore a strip of cloth from his shirt and wrapped it around his palm for minimal insulation. It would not be enough to protect him, but it might keep him conscious for the few seconds he needed. He took several deep breaths. His heart was beating hard, but his hands were steady. Then he reached out and grabbed the second conduit. Electricity surged through his body. Pain exploded in every nerve. His jaw clenched so tight he thought his teeth would break. His muscles locked. The world turned white. But he held on. 3 seconds, 4, 5. The lights flickered. The energy fields buzzed and crackled. Then everything went dark. Darkness swallowed the detention block. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in dim red. Sung lay on the floor of his cell, gasping for air. His whole body felt like it was on fire. The electrical shock had been worse than he calculated, but it had worked. The energy field was gone. He forced himself to move. His muscles screamed in protest. His hands shook. But he crawled forward through the space where the energy barrier had been. He was out of his cell. "By the ancestors," breath from the next cell, "you actually did it." Sung pulled himself to his feet. The corridor swayed. He put one hand against the wall to steady himself. Down the hallway he could hear shouting. The guards had noticed the power failure. They would be here soon. He had 47 seconds before the backup systems kicked in, maybe less now. He stumbled to the control panel near the center of the corridor. It was dark, but the emergency power gave it just enough juice to function. His burned fingers fumbled across the interface. The language scrolled across the screen, but he had watched the guards use this panel during his days here. He knew which symbols meant what. "What are you doing?" the liquid metal alien called out. "Run, escape while you can." Sung ignored the voice. He found the command he was looking for. With one trembling finger he pressed it. Every energy field in the detention block disappeared. 23 cells opened at once. Prisoners stumbled out into the corridor, confused and shocked. Some were dangerous criminals, some were political prisoners. Some, like Sung, were here for stupid reasons. All of them were free. Stepped out of his cell, his forearms stretching. "Human, you are insane. Why did you free everyone?" "Because I could," Sung said. He was leaning heavily against the control panel now. His vision kept going fuzzy. And because it was right. The sound of running footsteps echoed down the corridor. The guards were coming. Lots of them. "Listen to me," Sung said loudly. His voice barely carried, but the prisoners fell silent. "Anyone who was locked up for helping people, for small crimes, for political reasons, come with me. Everyone else, I suggest you go back to your cells. This is not a riot. This is a protest." A strange thing happened. More than half the prisoners walked back into their cells. A murderer who had killed for pleasure, a smuggler who sold weapons, a crime boss who ran drugs through the station. They all went back, because Sung had given them a choice and they chose not to ruin it. But 7 prisoners stayed. A small alien who had been jailed for speaking against the government. A woman from a species Sung did not recognize, arrested for protecting her children during a station emergency. 4 others with similar stories. "What now?" asked. Sung pulled out a small data chip he had hidden in his boot. He plugged it into the control panel. "Now we make sure everyone knows what happened here." The chip contained a virus he had written during his time in the cell. It was simple but effective. It connected to the detention block's security cameras and began uploading all the footage to the station's public network. Every minute of every prisoner's stay. The conditions they endured. The unjust sentences. Everything. "You planned this from the beginning," said with something like respect. "I planned to survive," Sung corrected. "The rest just made sense." The security team arrived. Led them, his crystalline body glowing with anger. Behind him were 20 armed guards. They stopped when they saw the open cells and the freed prisoners standing in the corridor. "What have you done?" demanded. "What needed to be done," Sung replied. He straightened up, fighting through the pain. "Your detention block is now broadcasting live to the entire station. Everyone can see the conditions here. Everyone can see who you have imprisoned and why." His body flashed with colors. Anger, Sung guessed. "You have destroyed property. You have freed criminals. You have incited chaos. This is beyond any punishment you faced before." "Maybe," Sung said, "but at least now people will know the truth." Outside the detention block, the station was erupting. Thousands of beings watched the security feeds on their personal devices. They saw the cold cells, the thin air, the prisoners suffering. They saw Sung's original arrest for saving lives. They saw everything. Jin Park was in her quarters when her communication device exploded with alerts. She pulled up the security feed and her hand went to her mouth. "Oh, Sung, what did you do?" She was already moving, grabbing her diplomatic credentials and running toward the detention block. She was not alone. Hundreds of people were heading that way. Humans. Aliens of a dozen species, all of them angry about what they had seen. Wu Jin met her halfway there. "Did you see the broadcast?" "I saw it," Jin confirmed. "We need to get there before this turns into a disaster." They arrived to find a tense standoff. The security team had their weapons raised. The freed prisoners stood in the corridor behind Sung, ready to fight if they had to. And behind the security team, a growing crowd of station residents pressed forward, demanding answers. "Stand down," ordered. "All of you will return to your cells or face immediate consequences." "No," Sung said simply. "You have no choice." "Everyone has a choice. That is the point you keep missing." A new voice cut through the tension. "Chief, you will lower your weapons." A counselor pushed through the crowd. She was older than, her crystalline body darker and more weathered. Her name was, and she held significant authority on the station council. "Counselor," said, surprise in his voice, "this human has committed serious crimes. He must be restrained." He has also exposed serious failures in our detention system, replied. She looked at the open cells, at the miserable conditions visible even from here. I have been watching the broadcasts like everyone else. We have much to answer for. Jin stepped forward. Counselor, I have evidence that Sung's original actions saved over 200 lives. The ventilation system was critical. Your own maintenance reports confirm this. I do not doubt it, said, but that does not excuse his actions here. Does it excuse yours? A voice called from the crowd. It was Na Song, a human journalist who worked on the station. She held up her recording device. Everyone has seen the conditions in that detention block. Everyone has seen the prisoners held without proper cause. Is this the justice, the promise? The crowd murmured in agreement. More voices joined in. Aliens and humans alike demanded answers. The security team looked uncertain. They were used to order. This was chaos. Stepped forward to stand beside Sung. This human freed me with honor. I was held for 9 months for a bar fight. 9 months in that frozen hole. If you try to take him, you will have to go through me first. The woman who had protected her children stepped up on Sung's other side. And me. One by one, the other freed prisoners joined them. A line of beings who had suffered unjustly, now standing together. Looked at, lower your weapons now. But counselor. Now. The security team slowly lowered their weapons. The tension eased slightly but did not disappear. Too many people were angry. Too many questions needed answers. Sung swayed on his feet. The adrenaline was wearing off and the electrical burns were catching up with him, caught him before he fell. Stubborn human, the muttered. You pushed yourself too far. Had to, Sung managed to say. Had to make them see. Jin rushed to his side. You need medical attention. I need this to mean something, Sung replied. He looked at Counselor. The detention system is broken. The bureaucracy is broken. People are suffering because you value rules more than lives. That has to change. Was quiet for a long moment. Around her, hundreds of beings waited for her response. The whole station was watching. You are right, she said finally. It does have to change, and it will, I give you my word. Sung smiled weakly, then it was worth it. His eyes rolled back and he collapsed, caught him, lifting the small human easily in his massive arms. He needs a doctor, the said. He will have the best care we can provide, promised. She looked at. Take him to the medical bay, and someone get these other prisoners proper reviews of their cases, tonight. As the crowd began to disperse, people talked in hushed, excited voices. The human had done the impossible. He had broken out of maximum security. He had changed everything. And he had done it not with violence, but with simple, stubborn determination to do what was right. Sung woke up in a medical bay. His hands were wrapped in bandages. Monitoring equipment beeped steadily beside him. For a moment, he thought he was back in the detention cell, and panic surged through him. Then he saw Jin sitting in a chair nearby, and he remembered. Hey, he said. His voice was rough. Jin looked up from her data pad. Relief flooded her face. You are awake. The doctor said you would be fine, but you have been unconscious for 14 hours. 14 hours, Sung tried to sit up. His body protested immediately. What happened? Did it work? Work, Jin laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. Sung, you started a revolution. The entire station is in an uproar. The Galactic Council is convening an emergency session here on Nexus 7. The detention system is under full investigation. You made it work. Sung lay back down. Good, that is good. You could have died, Jin said quietly. The electrical burns alone could have killed you. And if they had decided to use force instead of listening to Counselor, you would have been shot. But I did not die, Sung pointed out, and they did listen. The door opened. Wu Jin walked in carrying a container of food. I heard you were awake, brought you something better than hospital food. He set the container on the table beside the bed. You are an idiot, you know that. People keep telling me that, Sung said with a slight smile. A brave idiot, though. The whole station is talking about you. Half of them think you are a hero. The other half think you are crazy. Can I be both? Wu Jin grinned, probably. Over the next 2 days, things moved quickly. The Galactic Council arrived, representatives from 12 different species. They took over one of the station's largest conference centers. The proceedings were broadcast live, just like the detention block footage had been. Sung was called to testify. He walked into the conference center with Jin at his side. His hands were still bandaged, but he refused to use a medical transport. He walked in on his own feet. The council chamber was intimidating. Representatives sat in a semicircle, each on a platform suited to their species' needs. In the center was Counselor, serving as the local authority. Stood to one side, his crystalline body rigid with barely controlled anger. Sung began. You stand accused of multiple violations of station law, unauthorized repairs, destruction of detention facilities, inciting other prisoners to escape, broadcasting classified security footage. How do you respond to these charges? Sung looked up at the assembled council. He took a breath. I am guilty of all those things. I did them, and I would do them again if I had to. Murmurs ran through the chamber. His body flashed with satisfaction. He thought Sung had just condemned himself. However, Sung continued, I would like to present my own evidence before you decide my fate. Jin stepped forward with a data pad. The council's central display lit up. It showed the ventilation system in the lower decks, the reports that had been filed for 3 weeks, the declining air quality, the people getting sick. This is what I fixed, Sung said. Over 200 beings were breathing contaminated air. The station maintenance department had received 17 requests for emergency repairs. All of them were or delayed due to scheduling conflicts. The display changed. Now it showed the detention block conditions, the extreme cold, the inadequate air, the prisoners held for minor offenses or political reasons. This is what I exposed, Sung continued. Your detention system was not designed for justice. It was designed for punishment and control. Some of those prisoners had been there for months without trial. Others were there for crimes that amounted to speaking against authority. A counselor from a species that looked like a floating jellyfish spoke up. These are serious accusations against the administration. They are true accusations, Sung replied, and I have proof. Wu Jin stepped forward with more data. Engineering reports that had been filed and ignored. Safety violations that had been documented but never addressed. Requests for policy changes that had been buried in bureaucracy. The system is not evil, Sung said. It is just broken. It values procedure over people. It values order over justice. And when I tried to fix something that was killing people, it punished me for not following the proper channels. Could not stay silent any longer. Rules exist for a reason. Without them, there is only chaos. The human broke our laws. He must face consequences. I agree, Sung said, surprising everyone. I broke your laws. I should face consequences. But your laws are wrong, and sometimes breaking a wrong law is the right thing to do. A counselor from a species of tall, bird-like beings leaned forward. Are you suggesting beings should simply ignore any law they disagree with? No, Sung said. I am suggesting that when a law causes more harm than good, when following that law means people die or suffer unjustly, then the law needs to change. And sometimes the only way to make people see that is to break it and show them why it is wrong. The council chamber fell silent. Representatives looked at each other. Some seemed convinced. Others looked skeptical. All of them were thinking. Entered the chamber then, accompanied by the other prisoners who had been freed. They had all been released pending review of their cases. They stood behind Sung in a show of support. This human freed us, said in his deep, rumbling voice. He did not have to. He could have escaped alone. Instead, he gave us all a choice, and he made the station see what was happening in that place. For that, I call him friend. The woman who had protected her children spoke next. I was arrested for breaking quarantine protocol. My daughter was sick and needed medicine. The medical bay said it would take 2 hours to process the emergency request. My daughter did not have 2 hours, so I went in without authorization. They locked me up for 6 weeks. This human showed everyone what that cost. One by one, the freed prisoners told their stories. Each one was a testament to a system that had lost its way, that valued rules more than the beings those rules were supposed to protect. Counselor listened to all of it. When they finished, she looked at, "Chief, do you have anything to say?" His body flickered with colors. Anger, shame, confusion. I followed the law. I did my duty. If the laws are wrong, that is not my fault. But it is your responsibility, said quietly. All of us who enforce these laws share that responsibility. We forgot why the laws exist. We forgot that the purpose of order is to protect people, not to punish them for trying to help. She turned to address the full council. I move that all charges against Sung be dismissed. Furthermore, I propose an immediate review of detention policies across all Galactic Council stations. And I propose the creation of an emergency action protocol that allows beings to bypass bureaucracy when lives are at immediate risk. Another counselor raised a concern. Such a protocol could be abused. So can the current system, replied. As we have clearly seen, the difference is that this new protocol trusts people to do the right thing when it matters most. The vote was not unanimous. Some counselors worried about the precedent, but the majority sided with. The charges against Sung were dropped. The detention reforms were approved, and the right to emergency action doctrine was established, pending detailed implementation guidelines. When the session ended, approached Sung. The security chief stood stiffly, his pride clearly wounded. You have won, said. The council has ruled in your favor. This was not about winning, Sung replied. It was about fixing something broken. I still believe you violated important principles: order, procedure, respect for authority. Sung met the alien's crystalline eyes. And I believe people matter more than procedures. Maybe we are both right. Maybe the real answer is finding a balance. Was silent for a moment. Then slowly his body shifted to a softer blue color. Perhaps. I will think on your words, human. As they walked away, Jin put her hand on Sung's shoulder. You did it. You actually changed galactic policy. I just fixed what was broken, Sung said. Same as always. Same as always, Jin agreed with a smile. That is exactly what makes you remarkable. Sung looked around at the council chamber, at the beings from a dozen species talking and debating, and trying to make things better. He thought about the prisoners who were free now, the policies that would be reviewed, the lives that might be saved by the new emergency action doctrine. It had been worth it, all of it. The cold cell, the electrical burns, the risk, because in the end something good had come from it. That was all he ever really wanted. 3 months passed. Nexus 7 station was different now. The detention block had been completely redesigned. It was still secure, but now it was humane. Proper temperature control, regular medical checks, fast-track tribunals. No one would suffer like those prisoners had suffered. Sung tried to go back to his normal life. He fixed things. He hauled cargo. He avoided attention. But attention found him anyway. Excuse me, are you Sung? A young alien with purple skin and too many fingers approached him in a station corridor. Yes, Sung said carefully. I just wanted to say thank you. My sister was one of the prisoners you freed. She was arrested for helping someone without proper medical certification. They let her go after the council ruling. She has her life back now. This happened a lot. People thanking him. People wanting to shake his hand or touch him or whatever their species did to show respect. Sung appreciated it, but it also made him uncomfortable. He was not a hero. He was just someone who had fixed something broken. Wu Jin found it hilarious. You are famous now. The human who broke out of maximum security and changed galactic law. There are probably children's stories about you already. Please do not say that, Sung groaned. They were in a small drinking something that was almost but not quite like coffee. Across from them, Jin reviewed reports on her data pad. Speaking of stories, she said, the galactic news networks have started calling you the honey badger. Sung blinked. What? Apparently there is an earth animal called a honey badger. It is small and looks harmless, but it is incredibly fierce and stubborn. It does not care about obstacles. It just keeps going until it gets what it wants. Jin smiled. Someone on the council said you reminded them of the description, and the name stuck. I am not a badger, Sung protested. No, but you are definitely stubborn, Wu Jin said. Face it, my friend. You are the honey badger now. That is your legacy. Legacy? The word sat heavy in Sung's mind. He had not wanted a legacy. He had just wanted to help people. But the legacy was growing, whether he wanted it or not. Na Song, the journalist, published a full investigation into detention conditions across multiple stations. She called her series Breaking the Doors, How One Human Changed the System. It won awards. More importantly, it led to reforms on 17 different stations. The right to emergency action doctrine was officially implemented. Beings across the galaxy could now bypass bureaucracy in genuine life-threatening situations. There were safeguards, of course, reviews afterward, penalties for abuse, but the fundamental principle was established. People were trusted to do the right thing when lives were at stake. Some called it the Sung exception. Others called it the Honey Badger Protocol. That name especially spread through the galaxy in strange ways. It became slang. When someone refused to accept an impossible situation, others would say they were going honey badger. When someone broke a stupid rule to help people, it was a honey badger move. Sung still did not like the nickname, but he learned to live with it. 4 months after the detention incident, he received a contract offer. A colony on the edge of explored space needed someone to set up their infrastructure. The pay was good, but that was not what caught Sung's attention. What mattered was that the colony needed help, and he could provide it. He was packing his ship when arrived. The Massive had to duck to fit through the cargo bay door. I heard you are leaving, said. News travels fast. I wanted to thank you again, and to give you this. Held out a small object. It was a medallion made of polished stone, carved with symbols from the culture. What is it? Sung asked. A token of honor. In my culture, we give these to warriors who have proven their courage. You are not, but you have the heart of one. You faced impossible odds and won through determination alone. That deserves recognition. Sung took the medallion. It was heavy, warm from his hand. Thank you, but I was not trying to be a warrior. I was just trying to survive. Sometimes they are the same thing, replied. Survival requires courage, especially when others say survival is impossible. After left, Jin and Wu Jin came to say goodbye. They brought food, because that was what friends did. They sat in the cargo bay and ate and talked about nothing important. You will stay in touch, right? Jin asked. Of course, Sung promised. Communication is easy. I will send messages. Short messages, Wu Jin predicted. Probably just still alive, ship works, talk later. Sung smiled because it was true. He was not good at long communications, but he would try. As his friends left and he finished loading his ship, Sung thought about everything that had happened. The detention cell, the cold, the pain, the risk, and then the aftermath. The changes, the lives improved, the system fixed at least a little bit. Had it been worth it? He asked himself that question sometimes. The answer was always yes. 6 months after leaving Nexus 7, Sung heard about an incident on another station. A cargo hauler had been arrested for emergency repairs to a failing power system. The station authorities planned to detain her for 30 days while they investigated the violation of protocols. But this time, something different happened. The station residents protested immediately. They referenced the Sung case. They invoked the right to emergency action doctrine. The station authorities reviewed the situation, admitted the emergency was genuine, and released the cargo hauler with an apology. The cargo hauler gave an interview afterward. "I thought I was going to be stuck in detention for a month, but then people started talking about the honey badger protocol. They said if it was good enough to save lives, it was good enough for me. The authorities actually listened." When asked what she would say to Sung if she could, she smiled. "Thank you for being stubborn. Thank you for showing us that sometimes the right thing to do is break the rules that do not make sense." The interview was broadcast across the galactic network. Sung watched it from his ship, floating in space between destinations. He shook his head, but he was also smiling. A year after the incident, there was another case. This time on a colony world. A young engineer bypassed safety protocols to prevent a reactor meltdown. Her supervisors were furious about the protocol violations, but her colleagues defended her. "She pulled a honey badger," one of them said. "She did what needed to be done. You should be thanking her, not punishing her." The supervisors grudgingly agreed. The engineer was commended instead of punished, and she told reporters afterward, "I learned from the human Sung. Sometimes doing your job means doing what is right, not what the manual says." Even had changed. The security chief underwent training in emergency assessment. He learned to recognize when rules should be flexible. He even defended a human worker once, when the worker broke protocol to save someone from a fire. Others were shocked. "The human called Sung taught me something," explained. "Order is important, but the purpose of order is to protect people. When order prevents protection, it has failed its purpose." 2 years after the detention incident, Sung returned to Nexus 7 for supplies. He tried to slip in quietly, but Na Song was waiting at the dock. "Interview?" she asked hopefully. "No interviews," Sung said. "Come on, just a few questions. People want to know how you feel about the honey badger protocol spreading across the galaxy." Sung sighed. He knew she would not give up. "Fine, 5 minutes." They sat in the same where he had talked with Wu Jin and Jin before leaving. Na activated her recording device. "So, Sung, how does it feel knowing you changed galactic policy?" "It feels like I fixed something that was broken, same as any other repair job. But it was more than that. You inspired people. You showed them that one person can make a difference." Sung thought about that. "I do not think I showed them anything they did not already know. People want to help each other. They want to do the right thing. Sometimes the systems we build prevent that. All I did was point out that the system was broken. And then you broke out of maximum security detention to prove it," Na added with a smile. "That part was not planned. But you would do it again." Sung met her eyes. "If people needed help, if the system was failing them, yes, I would do it again." The interview was broadcast that evening. It was short, just like Sung had wanted, but it was enough. People across the galaxy watched it. They heard his simple words. They understood his simple truth. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules, not for chaos, not for rebellion, but because the rules have forgotten their purpose. That night, Sung sat in his ship and looked at the messages on his communication device. Hundreds of them, people thanking him. People telling him their own stories of standing up to broken systems. People saying they had gone honey badger when it mattered. He did not answer most of them. That was not his way, but he read them all. And for the first time, he understood what his actions had really meant. He had not just fixed a ventilation system. He had not just exposed a bad detention block. He had shown people something they needed to remember. That individuals matter. That one person doing the right thing at the right time can change the world. That being stubborn and determined and refusing to accept impossible is not foolish. It is human. 3 years after the incident, on a station far from Nexus 7, a maintenance worker faced an emergency. A cooling system was failing. Children were in danger. The proper channels would take too long. The worker looked at the locked door. The impossible situation. The rules that said he could not act without authorization. And then he thought about a human named Sung. A human who had looked at a locked door and said, "No." The worker smiled. He picked up his tools. "Time to go, honey badger," he muttered. And he got to work.